Expectations are sky high in Oxford, and these are three big questions that the Ole Miss Rebels need to answer this spring. Hello, everyone. I'm Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon as well so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content, which is each and every single day. Also, guys, check out the podcast, which drops daily on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us all across social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, guys, stay up to date with the latest from us over at our website, SECUnfiltered.com. Excitement is at a fever pitch in Oxford as Lane Kiffin and company get ready for what most expect to be an electric 2024 football season. But before that takes place, as spring ball ensues, the spring game in a couple weeks, these are three big questions that the Ole Miss Rebels need to get figured out and need to have answered this spring. And we'll start with number one. This one being the most obvious in my opinion. As we all know, Lane Kiffin, the portal king, what Ole Miss did in the transfer portal this offseason, I don't know that we've ever seen it before. Sure, we've seen other schools do really well and have transfer portal hauls. But when you talk about the amount of stars in this portal class, dude after dude after dude after stud, and a lot of these coming from other SEC schools, might I add, especially what they did on the defensive side of the football. And I think Lane Kiffin, guys, put this really well. It was a week or two ago. I saw a clip from Lane Kiffin where he was talking about, we got a bunch of great individuals, really talented, but are we a great team? We don't know that yet. We don't know if we're a great team yet. So my first question Ole Miss has to answer this spring: how do elite transfer portal pieces come together in Oxford, right? Because to his point, when you got a team full of mercenaries, if you will, which is essentially what it is, I don't say that as a negative, it just is what it is. A team full of mercenaries and guys from a bunch of different backgrounds who were not recruited to Ole Miss. They are not Ole Miss guys by trade. The question for Ole Miss is not talent, right? I mean, you could argue Ole Miss has got the most talented defense they've ever had in the history of their program that'll take the field this fall. Like, it's an embarrassment of riches, right? They've got question marks like everybody else, but I mean, when you look at what they've got offensively, of course, it starts with Jackson Dart returning, but you added Juice Wells at the wide receiver position. You got Trey Harris coming back, even with the loss of Quinshon Judkins, which we'll talk more about that in just a second. Even with that loss, you have other guys stepping in and stepping up. You got a fantastic offensive attack ready. And the defensively guys, like I mentioned, you added 10 players, I think, on the defensive side. Many of those guys are going to be starters. I would say essentially all of them will be big-time contributors. You've got the talent to win 10 or 11 games. Heck, maybe even go undefeated and make the college football playoff. That's without a doubt. But how do all of the pieces come together? Do personalities mesh well, right? Is this a great team? Again, we've seen very talented teams, very talented individuals not be a great team. Will the pieces come together? Will personalities mesh? Will they buy into the culture? And will it all play out like the faithful in Oxford are hoping? So, do the transfer portal pieces come together, and does Ole Miss go from being a great, talented group of individuals to a great team? My second big question, I just teased it a second ago, though, is this, guys. Who replaces the production of now departed Quinshon Judkins, who, of course, landed at Ohio State? Here's the good news for Ole Miss, right? Losing Quinshon Judkins. I know there's going to be some out there that say, you know what? It's actually addition by subtraction because of what he was in the locker room, and he was toxic, and he was a cancer, and he was asking for more money constantly. And you saw in the bowl game where offensive linemen were actually barking at Quinshon Judkins, didn't want to help him up. And I mean, it was a bit messy. Let's call it for what it is, right? But the bottom line is this: Quinshon Judkins was a fantastic running back. Let's not let everything else make us lose sight of that fact that he was a really, really good player. And it is a question for Ole Miss: who steps up at the running back spot? The good news is there are more than enough capable bodies to emerge to fill that role. I don't think it has to be one guy that carries the load. I think they can do a running back by committee. I think certainly they've got dudes who can emerge and be the go-to guy in the backfield. I mean, you look across the board, guys. Ulysses Bentley, who was fantastic for them last season. He's been an electric factory during his time there. Logan Diggs, the LSU transfer, which I think, guys, was actually one of the more underrated transfer portal pickups, because when Logan Diggs is healthy, I mean, I think he's got the talent. He could be one of the best backs in the SEC, no doubt. They've also got the youngster Kedrick Riscano, right? There's plenty of talent in that room, but who is it going to be? Is it going to be one guy? Is it all three of these guys? Is it somebody else we're not talking about? Who's a youngster? Who steps up? Who emerges? And who replaces that production, right? Coming out of spring, who's the guy you're looking at? Okay, here's the depth chart, RB1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Here's the guys we feel really good about. Here's what the rotation, right? The rotational start to take form. But who replaces the production of the departed Quinshon Judkins? Guys, before we get into our third and final question I've got for the Ole Miss Rebels this spring, I want to tell you about our friends over at RHOBACK, because today's segment is brought to you by our friends at RHOBACK. Head over to RHOBACK.com. Use the promo code SECU at checkout to get 20% off your entire first purchase. Again, guys, that's RHOBACK.com, promo code SECU. Guys, they got everything you need. As the weather starts to warm up, right? You're heading to the golf course. You're heading to the ball game. You're heading to the tailgate. Spring games will be here before you know it. Or whether you're just hanging out around the house, you're running errands. It doesn't matter what you're doing, guys. RHOBACK's the way to go. They got polos. They got quarter zips. They got hoodies. They got pullovers. They also have women's apparel, so you can outfit the entire family, guys. I swear by RHOBACK. I love their stuff. And again, one more reminder for all my golfers out there, right? Golfers, masters around the corner. RHOBACK's the way to go, man. Some of the best gear you'll ever wear. Some of the softest. It's got the stretch as well for your swing. Everything you need from our friends at RHOBACK. So again, that's RHOBACK.com. Promo code SECU, RHOBACK.com. Promo code SECU at checkout to get 20% off your entire first purchase. My third and final big question for the Ole Miss Rebels that need to get answered this spring, guys, is this. You know, when you look at the defensive side and what Pete Golding has to work with in 2024, to say that Ole Miss's defense is going to take a step forward, to say they're going to improve on the numbers from a season ago, because they were okay. They weren't great, right? They were ranked around 9th or 10th in the SEC in defense. Nothing really spectacular, nothing special. They hung their hat on their offense, right? Now you got all this talent. I mean, you got an influx of incredible talent. Like I mentioned, this might be the most talented Ole Miss defense to ever take the field in Oxford. Which star emerges as the leader of the Ole Miss defense? That's my third and final question this spring, guys. And again, spring is the time where guys start to establish themselves, right? They establish themselves in their roles on the football team, not just what position am I playing or how many plays per game am I getting, but also who's the leader, right? Who's the guy you turn to when the going gets tough and they make it get going, if you will. I look at guys like Princey Uman-Bielen, the Florida transfer. I look at Walter Nolan over from Texas A&M. I look at Paul Jr., which I think is one that's very underrated, the linebacker from Arkansas. I look at Trey Amos, a defensive back in the back end of the defense. Or is it somebody else? I mean, again, I think the great thing is this. You've got a number of guys who had a lot of success at their previous stops. They were in leadership roles. They were guys that those defenses looked at. I'm just curious to see which one of those is the dude that's the quarterback of the defense. Which one of those is the leader, whether it's a vocal leader, it's an emotional leader, it's a leader by example, whatever it might be. Because, again, this goes back to the first point. All the talent's there. I mean, the talent's there for Ole Miss to have a fantastic defense, but the pieces still have to come together. So which star emerges as that leader on the defensive side of the football? So again, guys, my three big questions the Ole Miss Rebels need to answer this spring. Number one, how do elite transfer portal pieces come together in Oxford? Number two, who replaces the production of now departed Quinshon Judkins? And number three, which star emerges as the leader of the Ole Miss defense? Guys, that's going to do all for me. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon as well so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content, which is each and every single day. Also, guys, check out the podcast, which drops daily, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, guys, stay up to date with the latest from us over at our website, SECUnfiltered.com. Until next time, guys, I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we'll catch you on the other side.